All right. Well, my name is Randy, and I'm 39 years old. And I gave my testimony here about, oh my gosh, it was back when Ron was pastor, probably around 2008, I think. Is that 2008, 2009 maybe? A lot's happened since then. I'm going to keep it. The key points I want to tell you, I'm a recovering addict. And I want to talk about the very distinct times that God was very present in my deepest, darkest moments in my addiction. And then a little bit of what's happening now. So I've bounced around from Kansas to Washington State. And I remember one time in Washington State, I was really, really just out there. Like I was doing so much methamphetamine that I was seeing things and hearing things on a daily basis, even when I wasn't using. And I was on this call because I worked for HughesNet, and I was in my work van. It was on the I-84 Gorge in Oregon, overlooking the river. And this guy come up and knock on my window, and it was out in the middle of freaking nowhere. And he gave me this tract. So come to find out, it was a Jehovah's Witness. So I started talking to him about what he believes in, and because, I'm in my addiction, but I'm still going to throw the Bible at you because it makes me feel good about myself, But God actually used me for some weird reason. We got into a battle, and everything he said, God had a Bible verse just fly out of my mouth for everything that he said. And it was crazy. And when I fell out and went to sleep that night, I had a dream. And I heard a voice tell me, you see what I did through you while you were at the bottom? Just imagine what I could do when you're on the right track. And so God spoke to me and used me when I was in hell, basically. It was my hell of my own making. And then, things happened, and then I lived with my ex-wife and my kids in Castle Rock. So this is after I had, was asked to leave, and because I was really, really bad. Like, my job offered me a treatment, and they would pay for it, but I just used that as an excuse to keep on getting high. So I ended up homeless in Vancouver, Washington. It's about 45 minutes from where I lived. And I remember walking the streets. My best friend just stole my drugs, and nobody would answer their doors. Nobody would answer their phone. I was just walking. I remember calling Mom, and I said, Mom, I feel like God is shutting every single door to put me to focus on him. Like, I literally had nobody to answer the phone, nobody to answer a door, nobody to talk to, nobody. It was straight like I was alone. And I remember I went and I stood on the I-5 overpass, and I was going to jump because I was done with life, and I failed my kids. I was a disappointment to my family, and I was just done. So as I went to step off, it was literally like this. I was about to jump, and I heard an audible voice yell, call Pastor Scott. And I was so out there. I had pneumonia. I was cold. I was sick. I was probably on the brink of death. I had no voice. Pastor Scott was one of the pastors at a church I went to in Longview, and he was very deep into the recovery community. So I called him, and he came and picked me up. He somehow understood me, and he came and picked me up and got me into treatment. And that was another way that God was intervened on my behalf when I was about to just call it done. And, I ended up back here on a Greyhound bus. I was clean for about a month, and then I started using again. I guess I just wasn't ready. I have no idea. But 3 years later, 2019, I ended up catching an aggravated robbery charge here in Salina. And I did about 5-6 months in jail, and I ended up, well, I was on Great Bend Corrections for a possession of meth that I had caught prior. So that was I got aggravated robbery, and I absconded because I was transferred here from Barton County. And so they put me in jail, and because I committed a crime with a weapon while I was on probation in Kansas, they were going to give me an automatic underlying sentence, which was 2 years in prison. Well, God had different plans and gave me a 60-day sanction in jail in Barton County and then reinstated on corrections. So when I got out of Barton County and went to New Chance treatment, I came back to Salina and I went to the mission. And when I went to the mission, I wasn't even there for, or was it 5 minutes, and they told me that a cop wanted to come talk to me about something. And I just was in jail for 9 months total and treatment, so I'm like, okay. So when the cop come to talk to me, he said, "Randy, do you remember me?" I'm like, oh gosh. It was the same cop that arrested me at gunpoint when I got arrested for all my charges in 2019. He said, "You told me you didn't have anything sharp in your pocket and you had needles and a knife. You lied to me." I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm 9 months sober. I just got out of jail. I mean, what's up? And he's like, what happened to I stole my friend's TV and sold it for drugs, and she reported it. And he was like, what happened to so-and-so's TV? So I told him what happened. I had made the commitment to be honest when I got out of jail this time. I wanted to try being honest instead of lying. So I was honest about it, caught myself a new charge, and went to jail. I remember Jason pulled in and saw me in handcuffs. And I was just like, dang, man. See, this is what happens when I'm honest. Why? Why do I even do this? And he said, it's just your past coming back to haunt you. Maybe you get out of a system one day. So I went to jail, and I remember laying there, and jail's nothing to me. Once you do some time in jail, you know how to do it, you know how to handle it, you know how to act, you know what's expected. So I was just laying there, and for some reason, I knew that I wasn't meant to be there. So I kept praying, and I said, God, your will be freaking done. And the next thing I know, the very next second, there's a knock on the window for me to sign an OR bond. If y'all don't know, that's own reconnaissance. That means you're getting bonded out for free. And it turns out corrections bonded me out because I was honest about that case. So I got bonded out. I went back to the mission and reinstated on corrections. And a month later, I wasn't working a program. I wasn't trying, I don't know what happened, but I know that I went out and I relapsed. I was hanging out with the wrong people. I went out and relapsed, and this went on for about 11 days. But because I decided to be honest and try something different, I reported to corrections high and admitted use when I had a UA. So with that being said, my corrections officer let this go on for about 11 days. And he said, Randy, if you don't go to your intake at CKF, I am putting you in jail. Because he could see that I was on a path to no return. He's like, why don't you try treatment again? I said, why? I just got out. You know? But I remember going to my Aunt Linda's house. Hi, Aunt Linda. Overnight. She let me stay at her house overnight so I could get to treatment in the morning. And that was another thing. I remember talking to my mom, and I was broke down crying because I just could. This is the insanity of anybody's addiction, and mine personally, that I said, Mom, I can't believe I lost everything so quick, like in an instant. No house. I never had a vehicle or money then because I was different. But Nobody was answering the door. Nobody was answering the phone. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with me. I said, Mom, I feel like once again, God is closing all these doors. It's like I'm on autopilot to treatment. Like, I feel like I have no choice. And my Aunt Linda let me stay the night at her house, and she took me to CKF the next day. And someone told me to call Todd White, and that was about my third weekend. He came and interviewed me. I've known Todd for about 15 years. If you don't know, he owns the Serenity House. So I got out of treatment, 3 weeks clean. I got into the Serenity House. My best friend, Josh Hudson, got me in. And and I got my job at Red Lobster August 14th, and I'm still there. I've been clean ever since. Yeah. About 3 months in, November 20th, 2019, my friend Josh was messing around with a friend he shouldn't have been messing around with, and Todd and Suzanne found him dead in his room from an overdose of fentanyl and heroin. And that was my best friend, like on the streets, and I trained him at Chili's, for God's sakes, excuse me. For goodness sakes, I trained him. He was really close to me. He got me in the house, and he was always making me laugh, and he was really special, and he deceived us, and he overdosed, and I was really upset about that. But I told myself I was going to try something different this time. I'm not going to use over death. I'm not going to use over heartbreak. I'm not going to use over anything. I'm just going to try to do it the right way and see what happens on faith for once in my life, because I've been doing it the wrong way for so long. And 3 months later after that, I met Stacy at treatment, and we're still together. We'll be together 18 months in just a couple days. So I've maintained a vehicle for a year. My van with the messed up bumper, the white beast out there, it's got us anywhere and everywhere, point A to point B. I've never maintained a vehicle in my life. I'm working a program. Please, for the love of goodness, don't applaud. If anything, applaud for God, but I know it could be lost in a heartbeat, but I'll be 2 years clean tomorrow. But I work really hard to stay sober, because I know just like 40 years, 2 years, 2 days, it can be gone if you're not careful. But I give God all the glory, because if it wasn't for him, I'd still be doing the things I was doing. I was never turning to God. I was always running to him. But he was always there in my life, intervening, and maybe that's why I stay sober, is because I don't want to put my family and my biological kids and my mom, my dad, and my aunt, I don't want to put them through that hell anymore. Like, I'm tired of hurting people. But most of all, I'm tired of hurting myself. I'd like to think I'm worth it. But I had something else, but I lost it. That's all I got. Thank you. Oh, hold on. I wanted to end with a verse. I've been reading John, and I read through it once, and I felt like I didn't get what I needed, so I'm reading through it again. 15:22 through 25. And this is what I'll end with. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have sin, but now they have no excuse for their sin. He who hates me hates my Father also. If I had done among them the works which no one else did, they would not have sin. But now they have both seen and hated me and my Father as well. But they have done this to fulfill the word that is written in their law. They hated me without cause. What spoke to me in these verses is, if Jesus says, if I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have sinned, but now they have no excuse. I have no reason to deny that God has intervened and spoke to me. So basically, I have no excuse to use or do the wrong thing. It's just you know, that's all I got.